Hi, I'm Danny Quinn, and welcome to the first episode of First Impressions Flashbacks, where instead of taking a look at a new release or a film that's just come out on DVD and Blu-ray, I take a look at a movie that's been out for quite a while, or maybe even a movie that's been out for several years, but for whatever reason or another I just haven't gotten around to seeing until now. Anything's fair game for this show. And first up for the chopping block is the Northern Irish crime drama Bad Day for the Cuts. The plot of the movie is pretty straightforward. A mild-mannered farmer, Dolan, played by Nigel O'Neill, has his quiet life shattered whenever his genteel mother is brutally murdered one night, and he sets off on a quest for revenge that leads him into the heart of Belfast's seedy underbelly, and as he infiltrates a crime ring led by Susan Lynch's Frankie, he begins to discover that his mother may not have been as innocent as he first thought. Bad Day for the Cut is one of those films I didn't really know a lot about before seeing it. I knew it had been kind of a sensation at Sundance back in 2017, and it did have quite a bit of buzz since it's a genre film set in Northern Ireland, filmed in Northern Ireland, and is largely a Northern Irish production. And as part of one of my college modules in independent film, I was asked to watch this film to see what about it makes it an independent film. So this won't necessarily be a review of Bad Day for the Cut per se. I'll certainly give my thoughts on it as best as I can, but for the most part this is more about trying to figure out what exactly makes this an independent film. Well, for one, I think the first thing that definitely sets this film apart from your standard Hollywood fare is the setting itself. The use of dialect and accents really gives the film a distinctively Northern Irish touch, the likes of which I've never really seen in a film before, at least not to this extent. It genuinely does feel Northern Irish. It doesn't feel like some foreign representation of what Northern Ireland looks like. Another thing that I'd say really sets it apart from your standard mainstream fare is its rather offbeat sense of humour. It's not broad or in your face or anything like that. It's fairly subtle. It's not the kind of humour you would typically see in a mainstream blockbuster. There's a very good moment early on when Donald's about to be hung by these two thieves, and director Chris Ball does such a great job building up the tension in the scene that when the payoff inevitably arrives, it did kind of get a bit of a chuckle out of me, which I think was meant to be the intention. Another thing that really sets this movie apart from mainstream cinema is its scale. It's quite clear that the film was made on a fairly limited budget, which is also something that's typical of independent cinema, but I feel like Ball gets a lot of use out of the Northern Irish location. But despite that, I feel like Ball and co-writer Brendan Mullins were able to express themselves in a very distinctive and unique way. Despite the film's fairly minuscule budget, the scenery and the locations look beautiful, the shots are so stunningly lit, but the film largely maintains a very gritty, raw aesthetic, especially in the scenes set in Belfast, which almost feel like they're out of a Ken Loach film. But the main thing that really cements its independent status for me is its tone. Even though this movie is a revenge story at its core, it's not a revenge film in the same vein as your typical Steven Seagal or Mel Gibson flick. It's more in the same vein as something like Blue Ruin or Get Carter. It's a very slow, deliberately paced film, almost very methodical in its tone, very contemplative. It's also very uncompromising and frank in its subject matter. It's visceral, it's raw, it's brutal, and the film raises some interesting questions about violence, vengeance, anger, and animosity, which is all further compounded by the film's shocking and ambiguous ending, as you sit back and ponder over just what happens and what might happen next. In the end, Bad Day for the Cut for me is a very well-made film with some genuine intelligence and wit lying underneath its fairly simple setup. It's very well acted, it's confidently directed, it looks gorgeous, and it's just great to see a film like this coming out of Northern Ireland. One that could potentially help to give the country its own cinematic voice, aside from just being the location where Game of Thrones is filmed. I do think it's a very inspiring film in that regard, and I hope that plenty of people who are from Northern Ireland do see it, and that they go out and decide to shoot their own film, regardless of whatever resources they may have. And with that being said, I'm gonna give Bad Day for the Cut a fairly strong 8 out of 10. But when I do think it's a great film, I wouldn't really say it's a very rewatchable one. It's pretty depressing, it's quite bleak, it's very somber in its tone, and if you're one of those people that likes revenge films to be somewhat satisfying, just look elsewhere, because you're not going to get that here. But if you are into more character-driven, melancholic, reflective thrillers like this, you really can't go wrong. I'd strongly recommend checking it out. It's a little slow and it does take a bit of patience to get into, but I'd say it's quite rewarding. So Bad Day for the Cut, have you seen it yet? If so, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe to my channel while you're at it. If there's anything I can do to improve my presentation, do let me know. I'm always happy to hear feedback as long as it's somewhat constructive. And if you want to follow me on social media or support me on Patreon, links below down in the description. And until next time, I'm Danny Quinn, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.